Sometimes you meet women who sabotage other women, sisters who betray sisters. Nurith Aizenman wrote an article. This is after Wonder Woman is doing very well in terms of critical reception. And she comes with this article. Remember that time when Wonder Woman was a UN ambassador? And she tries to recall the events. But what she tries to do is apologize, or as we say, make explanations for the women who rejected Wonder Woman as ambassador. And it's sad, really. So this woman starts to try and tear down another woman, even though she's fictitious. This is what she says. Remember that episode when Wonder Woman tried to be UN ambassador? Back when her reviews were decidedly more mixed? The idea was to make the character of Wonder Woman the face of a UN social media campaign to promote women's rights via tweets and Facebook call-outs. Women's rights advocates exploded in outrage, and nearly 45,000 people signed a petition against the decision. Anne-Marie Goot said, "It's an insult, frankly." Now, why this was so was because they campaigned very hard by feminist organizations around the world for a woman to be selected as Secretary General of the UN, which would have been awesome. But they didn't succeed. As a result, there was a selection for Wonder Woman to represent women's issues for the UN. And Goots was like, come on, man. She said it's frivolous, it's fatuous, it reduces an extremely serious human rights problem experienced by half of the world to a cartoon, she said, meaning women's rights issues. Not just any cartoon, added Goetz. Wonder Woman in her view was tantamount to a Barbie Playboy pinup. Like most female comic action figures, she has big breasts, skimpy, bursting out of a skimpy outfit and an impossible tiny waist. The message to girls is that you are expected to meet a male standard in which your significance is reduced to your role as a sexual object, said Goetz. Now, Maha Nasser, who's a man, the UN official who essentially brokered Wonder Woman's appointment, responded at the time that he and other United Nations colleagues had considered those concerns. I mean, we had these discussions, of course, with our partner, said Nasser, who directs the Outreach Division of the UN Department for Public Information, which handles partnerships with celebrities and entertainment figures. And Nasser noted that his team worked closely with the artists at DC Comics to tone down the image that was used in the UN campaign, of which you can see it right here. The campaign art that we are working with doesn't have that caricature image of the round stereotype of what a woman should look like, he said. For instance, they only showed Wonder Woman from the waist up, and they gave her a cape draped around her neck and shoulders, making her bust less prominent. Nasser said that the social media campaign was all about emphasizing Wonder Woman's girl power credentials, what he called the essence of the character. The focus of the UN was her feminist background, being the first female superhero in the world of male superheroes, and that basically she always fought for fairness, justice, and peace, he said. Nasser said he expected the campaign to last well into 2017, but less than 2 months later, with little fanfare, UN officials announced that Wonder Woman's UN career was coming to a close, adding, actually, they had always intended it to be brief, which is kind of sad. This is the actual caricature that they had for Wonder Woman representing all women. Think of all the wonders we can do. Stand up for the empowerment of women and girls everywhere, sorry. And you can see that this figure is very decent. Okay, and as I said before, Gal Gadot's depiction of Wonder Woman, especially in the live-action film, is going to be decent. She's not going to be indecent. Well, in 1911 should have been indecent, but as to now, no. That's obviously a functional outfit. It's not a pin-up model outfit at all. And Gal's dimensions are pretty much attainable, and then Wonder Woman is a warrior. But the point, anyway, is that this has happened before, okay? This is not the first time this has happened. But what was very interesting about this article, which I got from it, is that this lady has to be an apologist for these feminists who actually rejected Wonder Woman. And the joke about it is now Wonder Woman's going to blow up really big. Wonder Woman's going to be everywhere. And the United Nations is not associated with Wonder Woman. That's going to be the sad part about the whole thing. And they still could have lobbied for positions. Now that Wonder Woman was out there, they could have lobbied for some other positions in the UN, because Wonder Woman's going to show on the big screen that women are leaders and they can be leaders. So they really, to me, squandered their opportunity there, because they were so small-minded and narrow-minded. They couldn't see that they were fighting against something that could actually have assisted them in getting further up the chain in the United Nations, and actually have them run the United Nations as Secretary General, because Wonder Woman would have shown that women leadership is different to man leadership. So they shot themselves in the foot, but it is what it is. Jill Lepore, a professor at Harvard University who wrote The Secret History of Wonder Woman about the comic book character's creation, said disputes like this have long dogged Wonder Woman. She said, on one hand, Lepore, the character has solid feminist roots. She's invented by 1941 by William Marston, Harvard-trained PhD psychologist, advice columnist for Family Circle magazine. Marston had been brought on board by the company that eventually became DC Comics to help deal with public relations problem. Now, actually, Marston had created this character before this happened, but whatever. Now, really, they had a problem with Batman. He was just like this killing vigilante, and Superman was like a fascist. Believe it or not, DC had that problem. It had gotten to the point where various religious and parental groups had banned comics. According to Lepore, Marston said, you need a female superhero because she will embody the nurturing values of womanhood. She will be about peace, not war. The character he set about creating drew largely on real-life woman Marston knew personally and greatly admired. Margaret Sanger, the co-founder of Planned Parenthood. And in the comic book, and now in the new movie, Wonder Woman, okay, forget that. Marston had an ambitious vision for his new character, laid out in a remarkable press release distributed after her debut. He said, the only hope for civilization is the greater freedom, development, and equality of women in all fields of human activity. He added, frankly, Wonder Woman is a psychological propaganda for the new type of woman who should, I believe, rule the world. Now, I'm going to come back to this. But even so, in the earliest years, Wonder Woman embodied contradictions. It was not just the risk outfits. Marston insisted that every episode of Wonder Woman had to be tied up or otherwise bound by villains. In part, said Leopold, this was a nod to the iconography of the suffragists of the early 1900s who had wore chains on marches seeking the right to vote. But it also became clear from the letters to DC Comics that Wonder Woman's largely male audience found this aspect of her story titillating. And let me just show you the marches that actually occurred. Suffragists, for the women fighting for the right to vote since the 1900s, okay? 1900s, again, 1901, 1911, 1918. Women fought for all kinds of things. Because remember, in the First World War, women worked. They basically maintained America. But then all of a sudden, they wanted them to go back to home. So the women said, no, one, we're fighting for the right to vote. We need the right to vote now. We need to have a say in how America is dealt with, because we are active parts of America. Notice their dress, please. This is very important to see how these women were dressed. And also, there was a reaction to this. This is what men thought. They need to be tied up, bound, and gagged. So they mustn't be able to talk, and they must be disciplined. We disciplined these women back into silence. But that never happened. In fact, the vote for women's rights, if I can just blow this up a little bit so you can see it, you notice that it starts off with the baby, the man, the girl, and then you can see here in 1902, women started dressing a little bit differently, okay? Because they were going to work, right? You had the women dressing like this, and then you had them dressing like this, and then because they were still going to work, and then they realized, women started to realize, wait a minute, I have rights, and I have certain abilities and powers, and I should exercise them. So they started to exercise their rights, abilities, and their desire to vote changed. You can see their wear changed. Now, there's a couple things. Women were empowered because they were the ones running the country. Remember, the men were off to war, women were the ones running the country, okay? And they were not being paid properly, and all kinds of crazy things were happening. So women started to realize they had a voice. 1, they were needed. 2, that they could do things just like men. 3, and then 4, they began to realize with this freedom, they should carve their own pathway. So if you look here, here's the woman, it's just a little woman. Then she starts to realize she has value. She's working and all of these things. She's earning her own income. She's earning her own living. And now she becomes a businesswoman. And now she becomes an activist. So this is the final stage. Now I want to show you something. If you look at the women protesting here, I'm just going to move back a step here. Right here. You will see that they are dressed like this woman here. Okay? I want to show you something else. If you look at Etta Candy, she looks like a businesswoman. Because she gets freed. Okay, she looks like this woman here. And guess what? When you look at Princess Diana, the outfit she finally chooses to go out with is this one. Again, like this woman here. Isn't that amazing? Now, when she first meets Etta Candy, however, Etta Candy is dressed like this woman here. Okay? But Etta Candy grows into this woman and then into this woman. Alright? So I thought this was very insightful by the movie. And again, it brings me back to the point I was making, that William Marston, he spoke of Wonder Woman being finally the new type of woman who he believes will rule the world. That new type of woman looks like this. Now, even more interesting enough is this that I picked from the article. That even after all the controversy with Wonder Woman, where they didn't like the bondage thing and they thought that men were getting happy about the bondage stuff, we see that these were villains that used to tie up Wonder Woman, by the way. And so the enemy tries to keep you in bondage. So I get what William Marston was doing. Of course, men like that. So what happened was, anyway, that women in the 70s, feminists of the 70s, actually considered her an inspiration. Again, this is all very important for people to understand when this woman's trying to make her arguments. Now, today you hear a lot of people say, well, why is Wonder Woman a symbol of woman's power? She's obviously made for men to look at, oogle at. Well, you may look and oogle, but if you ever watched Linda Carter on the television, when a man tried to approach her inappropriately, she just punched him into the sea or something, you know. You might oogle, but you ain't gonna touch, you know what I'm saying? And the point being that you learn respect, that even so somebody may appear a certain way, that doesn't mean you have the right to do whatever you think you disrespect them and stuff. So I think Wonder Woman helped to usher in that world where women could dress how they want to and so on. They can look attractive, whatever, but you have to respect them still. So that's what Wonder Woman brought to the table. In addition to, I must say, the fact that I think these feminists made a huge blooper. They didn't see the big picture. And they should have allowed Wonder Woman to be ambassador of the United Nations. It wouldn't hurt them at all. And more women should have been poured in there. She shouldn't just be the token person, but more women should have said, well, hey, Wonder Woman's in the door. Don't think you please us by that. We'll take it, but we want more. And that's what they should have done. But it happens, you know, you make mistakes along the way, so it's all good. So at the end of the day, you see all of these interesting things about Wonder Woman. Of course, the movie's it goes through different things. And at the end of the day, I'm telling you, man, this movie's so awesome because Wonder Woman expresses herself as she wants to express herself in the end. This was Steve Trevor's idea, by the way. Okay? So watch how far that storyline changes. I like all the little details that I can pick up from this movie before I go in and see it. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. So even though this letter was supposed to be a letter of apology and protection of the feminists who did their thing in the United Nations, misguided, I must say, still at the same time, I will say this. The struggle goes on. And we all must work as a team. So I'm not mad at those feminists. I get what is happening, their frustration, and they really wanted a real woman there instead of this ideology. But they need to understand. You need to do your homework. You need to do your research, people, before you go in. And especially if it's a woman, don't just attack her. Think first, then move. You know, that's all I'm saying. I ain't mad at you people. I'm just saying, work as a team, man. Look at Linda Carter. She tag team Gal Gadot. She didn't bad talk her. She didn't talk her down. You know what I'm saying? Work as a team because it's a struggle. All right, you guys. Have a great one.